What's up, friendly neighborhood nerds? This is Judah Rad. Today we're joined by Eric Palicki, writer of Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, Fake Empire, and No Angel. Today we're talking about Black's Myth, debuting in July, which he's creating with artist Wendell Cavalcante, published by Ahoy Comics. It's been described as a punk rock, black and white horror series. So I'm sold. Eric, welcome to the IFLC zone. How is it going?
It's going really well. How are you doing today?
Oh, thank you for asking. I'm doing very well, actually. I just got back from work and I have a 4-day weekend. So
sounds great. Thanks for having me this evening. So
hey, thanks a lot for joining us. What can you tell us? So I've seen the press packet, so I have kind of an idea of what this is going to be about, but just kind of in your own words, what can you tell us about Black's Myth and what we can expect?
Sure. It's black and white punk rock horror noir mystery with a supernatural angle. It is the story of one Janie Jones Strummer Mercado, who is a private detective who is hired to find 30 stolen bullets that may or may not have been cast from Judas's silver.
Wow, that sounds really cool. Definitely looking forward to checking that out. And I kind of like how it's like it seems like it's hard to pin down what genre this is. There's a historical fiction element, it sounds like, but then it also sounds like kind of like a horror, almost like detective type thing.
I guess like the elevator pitch is put the cast of Buffy the Vampire Slayer into the Maltese Falcon is like, that's how I would describe it if I was cornered in an elevator.
Okay. I'm not going to corner you in an elevator, but take my money. I definitely want to read this book. These promo panels, super awesome. There's the one that kind of stuck out to me. It's an overhead view of one of the characters in a bathtub, and it definitely, like, the black and white lends itself to a very noir vibe. How would you characterize sort of the tone that we can
Yeah, that's pretty much spot on. Like, it is, noir means dark, and when we meet Strummer for the first time, we're seeing her at kind of her lowest point. And so the question is, can she go even lower, or can she dig her way out of the situation that she finds herself in?
Cool. So Ahoy is a pretty new publisher. I think they began in like 2018 or something. And I have not read a lot of any stuff published by Ahoy yet. But it seems like from what I've seen, they're taking a very different approach to storytelling with sort of a focus on like satire and just other very like non-superhero-ish type stuff. With Black's Myth and some of Ahoy's other releases, what kind of audience do you think you and then Ahoy as a publisher is targeting?
So, I mean, when I was brought in to do Black's Myth, one of the things that was explained to me very early is that all of their books have a sense of humor. Whether that is something that's overt slapstick, like something like #Danger, or if it is that sort of more satirical bent like you find in The Wrong Earth. And that's really, like, as far as Ahoy's entire catalog, The Wrong Earth was really their first big release, and it is definitely like a great entry point into the publisher, because it is, Ahoy is run by a bunch of former DC and Vertigo editors, and it has some sensibilities that will seem familiar to people who are fans of DC Comics. The main character, Dragonfly, is definitely an analog for Batman. But what they do with that character and the situations they put him in will appeal to a much wider audience. That's kind of their lone big superhero release besides Penultimate. But they do a lot with science fiction in the form of Captain Ginger. They do, this is going to be their first real dalliance with horror as far as long form stories. But they have been running an anthology series, which is somewhat comedic takes on Edgar Allan Poe's catalog of stories. And I recommend those as well.
Yeah, definitely sounds like something I'd be interested in. I was kind of sad when when they got rid of Vertigo, because I really liked, I mean, that's kind of how I got into comics, was like reading Sandman and stuff like that. So yeah, it's definitely nice to know that what you guys are doing is sort of in that vein. So tell me a story. So starting
Sure.
with like when you first got into comics to when you started writing and then you started writing comics, how is your evolution as a writer gone? Like, where did it start? How did you get here? And also, how did that trajectory sort of find comics?
Sure. So I've been reading comics since I was about 12 years old. When I was in sixth grade, I was hanging out with a friend, and he had recently inherited a bunch of long boxes from his uncle. I guess inherited is the wrong word. His uncle had outgrown his comic collection and given them to my friend. And so that used to be how we'd spend our afternoons after school. We'd go over to his house and, grab something at random from these long boxes and just dig in. And it was a lot of bronze and early modern age, what's considered the classics now. Dark Knight Returns, the Wolverine miniseries, early Claremont X-Men, just all of these things. I discovered the thing that really ended up hooking me, the thing that like made me a comics fan for life, was he had a complete run of Iron Man through the Armor Wars, and Armor Wars is just this great story. Has this very we're talking early 90s, late 80s. Comics are still for kids, but there was so many mature themes attached to that story arc, and I was just made me a fan for life. As far as my interest in writing them, though, I went to school for English. I thought that I was going to be a short story writer. I thought I was going to be Ray Bradbury or Harlan Ellison, and turned out I was not. I didn't have the patience for writing prose fiction that I expected to have, and I was sort of lamenting that. And someone loaned me the Authority trade paperback, the very first volume of the Authority by Warren Ellis, and that trade paperback was reprinted with the script, the first issue script in the back. And I looked at the script and the script format, and I said, well, I can do this. This is something I can do. And, I gave it a whirl. And after, 6 or 7 years of writing bad scripts, I finally started writing scripts that I was not embarrassed to show other people. And then, here we are. There are several earlier works of mine that are out. You mentioned, Fake Empire was the first graphic novel that I had distributed through Diamond. It's actually the third graphic novel that I published. I published two books myself through Kickstarter previous to Fake Empire. But, Fake Empire is really that first attempt at of reaching the wider audience that Diamond brings. And from there, it was No Angel, and Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, and here we are with Black Smith.
Cool. So you mentioned you had an interest at one point in doing prose. Is that something that you still have an interest in ever trying, or are you pretty comfortable living in the comic land?
I think I'm most comfortable in comics. Hopefully it's it's a medium that will have me for years to come.
I think it's so dynamic. Like just the way you can tell a story and the collaborative aspect. Regarding collaboration, so you're working with Wendell Cavalcante. How would you sort of describe that working dynamic? I know we talked to some writers, and they have a very directive approach where this is this panel, this is this panel, and then some writers prefer to have kind of more of a here's the story I want you to tell, show it to me kind of approach. How would you describe your approach?
Yeah. So one interesting thing about that is that, well, first of all, Wendell and I have worked together for about 15 years now. When I first started writing scripts that I was not embarrassed to show to anyone, he was one of the first artists who approached me, or we found each other through a message board in the early 2000s. And he drew these 4-page shorts that I was writing at the time called The Undertaker's Daughter, which is about a teenage hit woman. Not anything that I would necessarily be thrilled to show people now in 2021, but it was an important learning experience for both of us. So we've had that working relationship on and off for 15 years. He also drew Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, my book with Scout. I think we just kind of understand what each other needs. I give him room to explore, and try new things where it's warranted. And sometimes he actually prefers a heavier hand in terms of what I'm looking for. There's a lot of 6 and 9 panel grids in Blacksmith, and he was completely fine with working in those somewhat more strict confines.
I love so I tend to really enjoy when I see black and white comics. I love color comics as well, but it's really just interesting to see the pencil work when like how what's the word I'm looking for? There's no distractions from the pencil work when you look at like a black and white comic. So I'm happy to see that that's what this is. That's what this is. Really showcases Wendell. So you're the writer in the family. Your sister Adrienne Palicki is the actress of the family. It seems kind of like natural that at some point you two would collaborate on something. Has that happened, or is that ever going to happen?
Yeah, actually, she is the co-writer of record on No Angel, which is a miniseries that was released in 2017 through Black Mask Studios. It's a story about sibling rivalries, so it was perfect for us to collaborate and tell that story together. It's something I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of the fact that we got to work together on it. The finished product is one of my favorite things that I've ever worked on. So yeah, hopefully we can do it again when her schedule opens up. She is currently working her way through season 3 of The Orville, and there's no rest for the wicked.
Right. Yeah. It's got to be very busy. So kind of going back to the intro when I first introduced you. So the promotional materials are characterizing Blacksmith as a punk rock type story, and I have to ask. I'm a huge music fan. It kind of makes me wonder what music, bands, and songs have directly affected your work.
Sure. Well, I mean, I wear this one on my sleeve. The main character's name is Janie Jones Strummer Mercado, and there's 2 Clash references in that name alone. There's a Joe Strummer quote, "Without people, you're nothing," and that really sort of, by the time people get to the end of this miniseries, I hope they see that that's kind of the theme of the book. Is it's really about both Strummer and her partner Ben realizing, like, finding their people, finding the group of people that they belong amongst. And I know that the promotional materials have specifically mentioned that that Strummer is a werewolf and Ben is half Jinn. They're both these supernatural entities, but they also feel like outcasts. And so it's really about them finding each other, finding other people like them. And when we meet both of them, they've more or less turned their back on that aspect of themselves. And it's really about them coming back to that.
Everybody needs a tribe or like a family.
Exactly. Yeah, I actually in the original pitch, I likened it to my own experiences finding fellow creatives in the comics industry, going to conventions and like the bonds that I've developed as a result of that.
Such a community-based medium in every sense, from the creating process to the sort of the convention culture that is kind of built around comics. So I think that's pretty cool and pretty relevant, having that as a theme. So what else can we expect from you going forward? Is there anything else that you've announced or are allowed to talk about that is on the horizon for you?
Yeah, actually, I got a couple of things that I'm real excited about. One of them was just officially announced. Well, we had announced it back on Halloween, but made an official announcement just last week that an anthology that I edited back in 2018, I co-edited it with Joe Corallo, called Deadbeats. It's an anthology of, again, musically themed horror stories. And we were nominated for a Ringo Award. It was a very well-received book. But we're going to be launching the Kickstarter for the sequel on June 1st. So depending on when this is broadcast, it'll either be running or very close to running. It's pretty exciting. We have a great list of top tier talent. Ron Mars has provided a story for us. Lila Sturgis, Jody Hauser, some great creators this time around. And just like the first one,
great people too.
Yeah, they're really awesome people.
Yeah.
And that's we try to make sure that creators that we work with check both boxes, right? Talented and kind. But once again, it's going to be centered around the somewhat magical Deadbeats record store and the magical items and albums and instruments that are for sale within. Very excited to see that one coming together. And then I will also be launching later in June a personal Kickstarter for a graphic novella called Manticore that will be illustrated by Christopher Peterson. And, that will be, it's going to be a hardcover novella. It's going to be oversized dimensions, so more like a European album than typical American floppies. Really excited to kind of create something that's going to be like a cool curio, a cool object for people to have. But that's coming together really well.
It's not going to fit in my bag and boards.
Don't worry, it's going to be hardcover. It's going to be it's going to be a durable item.
Okay, sounds good. I'm definitely excited to check that out. So, this is kind of a off the wall question, but every time we talk about a horror book or kind of a more noir type book, I'm always kind of interested in what would you say is the worst way to be murdered?
The worst way to be murdered?
Like you're going to be murdered, but you get to pick one way that it's definitely not going to be. What way do you absolutely not want to be murdered?
I don't want to burn to death. I think like burning to death or bleeding to death. Like don't give me the death by 1,000 cuts. Those are the two for me. Like just make it quick. If you're gonna do it, make it quick. I hopefully my girlfriend watches this, and so she gets the right idea.
Or the wrong idea.
Right.
Mine. So I'm more afraid of terror than I am of pain. So mine is I don't want to die in the ocean from a large sea creature, specifically like an octopus or something with tentacles.
Yeah, just make it quick. If you want to
make it quick.
Poison me. Just put a pillow over my head while I'm sleeping, honey. Whatever you got to do.
So that, ladies, gentlemen, and bees, that was Eric Palicki, writer of Blacksmith, which comes out in July. Which day in July is it?
It's July 7th will be issue 1. Issue 2 is currently in its solicitation window, so let your LCS know if you would like a copy of issues 1 or 2.
Definitely don't forget to pre-order. Cool. So, thanks a lot for joining us. It was really fun talking to you, and hopefully we get to talk to you again sometime. This is fun, and I'm really looking forward to getting my hands on Blacksmith because what I've seen looks pretty cool. So
I really appreciate that, and thank you so much for your time today.
If you want to hear interviews from industry pros, get first looks, and have access to endless comic content, wake up. Please wake up. You're in a coma. Your mother misses you.